Daisy's life seemed perfect: a loving fiancé, Ricardo, and a promising future filled with stability and affection. Ricardo owned a thriving auto repair shop, and while Daisy wasn't particularly knowledgeable about cars, she enjoyed spending time with him there. Their relationship felt solid, built on years of trust and shared dreams. But life has a way of throwing the unexpected into the mix, and for Daisy, that came in the form of Felipe. Felipe wasn't like anyone she had ever met. When Ricardo hired him as a mechanic, his quiet intensity immediately set him apart. He was tall, with piercing dark eyes, unruly hair, and a rugged demeanor that hinted at untold stories. Felipe had an air of mystery that made him impossible to ignore. Daisy tried not to notice, but something about him captivated her from the moment they exchanged their first words. It all began innocently enough. Daisy brought her mother's car to the shop for a tune-up one sunny afternoon. Ricardo was busy, so Felipe stepped in to help. Watching him work, Daisy couldn't help but admire his precision and focus, the way he moved with quiet confidence. Their brief conversation was unremarkable, but the way Felipe's eyes lingered on hers left Daisy's heart racing in a way she couldn't explain. As the days turned into weeks, Daisy found herself making excuses to visit the shop more often. She told herself it was harmless, a way to support Ricardo's business. But deep down, she knew she was drawn to Felipe. Every glance, every passing word between them seemed to carry an unspoken weight. It was as if they shared a secret neither dared to voice. And then came the day Ricardo had to leave town for business. He asked Daisy to oversee the workshop in his absence, trusting her to manage things while he finalized an important contract. Daisy promised to keep everything under control, but inside, she felt a storm brewing. The workshop felt different without Ricardo there, a little quieter, a little more charged. Felipe's presence seemed to fill the space, and Daisy couldn't ignore the growing tension between them. On the second day of Ricardo's absence, Daisy was sorting through paperwork in the office when a client called, asking for an update on a repair. Needing Felipe's expertise, she called him in to discuss the situation. The moment he stepped into the small room, closing the door behind him, the air seemed to change. Daisy tried to focus on the task at hand, but her voice trembled as she explained the issue. Felipe listened intently, his gaze never leaving hers. There was something about the way he looked at her, intense, unrelenting, that made her feel both exposed and alive. As they stood mere inches apart, the tension became unbearable. Daisy didn't know who moved first, but suddenly their lips met in a kiss that was both fierce and desperate. All the emotions they had been holding back erupted in that moment. Felipe's hands found her waist, pulling her closer as he lifted her onto the desk. Their movements were fueled by an urgency that left no room for second thoughts. Every touch, every kiss was a surrender to the desire they had tried so hard to deny. When it was over, Daisy was left breathless, her heart pounding as she tried to make sense of what had just happened. Felipe's gaze held hers, a mix of satisfaction and something deeper, something that made her wonder if this was just the beginning. "This shouldn't have happened," Daisy murmured, though the words felt hollow even as she spoke them. "But it did," Felipe replied, his voice low and steady. "And you know it won't be the last time." Daisy knew he was right. As much as she wanted to convince herself otherwise, she couldn't ignore the pull Felipe had over her. The line between right and wrong had blurred, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to find her way back. The next morning, Daisy woke with a whirlwind of emotions: guilt, excitement, and an undeniable longing for more. She resolved to talk to Felipe, to clear the air before Ricardo returned. But when she arrived at the workshop, all her carefully planned words vanished the moment she saw him. Felipe was working on a car, his hands deftly moving between tools and parts. The sight of him, so focused and unbothered, sent a wave of heat through her. She approached hesitantly, her heart racing with every step. "Felipe," she began, her voice trembling. He looked up, his dark eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Daisy," he said simply, setting his tools aside as if he had been waiting for this moment. "We need to talk about yesterday," Daisy said, trying to sound firm. But Felipe only smiled, a subtle, knowing smile that sent shivers down her spine. "Do we?" he asked, his voice a low murmur. Before she could respond, He closed the distance between them, his lips capturing hers in a kiss that made her forget everything else. Once again, Daisy found herself surrendering to the moment, unable to resist the magnetic pull of Felipe's presence. What happens next in this story of forbidden passion and dangerous choices? Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and follow along to find out.